Hello, and welcome to Congress for Global Communications. I'm Dr. Sonia Robinson, President and founder of CGC, as well as Special Advisor to the Good Health and Wellbeing team, which represents Sustainable Development Goal number 3. New Year's Day is the most popular time of the year for people to hit the reset button or make New Year's Eve resolutions. The start of the new year is the perfect time to focus on positive change. And the reason people want to do this is that they want to do something different in their life. They want to change that behavior or that undesired trait or to accomplish a personal goal. Sometimes you'll hear people say, well, my goal this year is going to be to lose weight. But if you don't change the way, you perceive or have gone about your business in the past, it's not going to work for the future. But again, these are just some of the things that we do. So you need to stay motivated when you're bringing on new behaviors. So today, we're going to pause and start again with a new solution. And in order to embrace something new, it requires a different mindset and self-evaluation. We all get the exact same number of days, 365, and the only difference is what we do with them. So the team today consists of we're going to have a therapist on the show, a master fitness trainer on the show. We have a pastor with us today, strategic advisor on multiple boards out of the United Kingdom, as well as a wellness and grief therapist. So they're going to help us understand what it is to bring about change for ourselves, to make us for the better. So we look forward to placing your comments and questions in the feed today. I want to say thank you for joining, and please share the video. Now, our moderator for today is Tara James Wallace. She's the team leader, and she's also a trauma therapist, among other things. So with that being said, I'm going to bring on Tara James Wallace. You're on mute.
Good afternoon. Good morning, good evening, wherever you are. Dr. Sonia, I am glad to be here. I'm excited for this particular presentation because it's something that we planned literally after we finished the last one. And they are all motivated to share because this is the time where people are engaged and trying to make changes and all those things. So this is a perfect time. But before I jump into that part, let me introduce myself. I am Tara. I am a clinical social worker. I'm in Kansas. I'm in Topeka, Kansas, and I'm in my car right now. But
not driving.
Yes, but not driving. I work primarily with children and trauma. And I am about to become certified to address maternal health as well. So I'm really, really excited about that. But enough about me. We are getting ready to bring on one of my favorite people in the world, even though sometimes I don't like her. My fitness trainer, I call her Coach Nisi, but her name is Shanicia Ewing. She is about to join us and give us a little information about why we're here today.
What's up? How y'all doing, everybody? I am Coach Nisi. Tara loves me, so don't listen to her. She loves me because she looks good, right? But we're here today. Thank you, Dr. Sonia, for having me on again. I'm so excited to be a part of the team as well. But today, listen, when we talk about solutions and New Year's resolutions, we have to make sure that we're walking into a new season that is going to come with solutions to solve those problems, right? I am not a firm believer that we start anything new when we haven't finished the old. And in this season, we want to now have solutions to those problems that we may have brought with us 2023. Or if we're starting something new in the year of 2024, we want to make sure that we are now have a plan to complete those tasks, right? What is the solution? What are we looking for? What is the end goal? And today, our team is going to really talk about those things, the ways to do that holistically from the mind, the body, the energy, spiritually, and being able to align yourself in the year of 2024 with so much positivity, so much good energy, and completed tasks.
Thank you.
Well, you're welcome.
And you bring up a good point, because one of the things that I was thinking about, but I didn't mention it, is, when you go into something new, sometimes, you have to put a structure in place in order to fulfill that. And without that structure in place, you're going to fall by the wayside. So again, I didn't mention that, but I know you being a fitness trainer, that's something that you strive for your clients.
Absolutely, all day long. They get a plan, they get a program. I just need you to follow it. That's it. You do it. So absolutely, I'm looking forward to this conversation. It's going to be huge because it's
Yes.
probably one of the biggest things people struggle with throughout their year. Of just sticking to the plan, and we're going to talk about how we can do that. So
Okay.
I'm glad to be here. Thank you, Tara.
You are so welcome. Yes, I do love her. I really, really do love her. I think about her every day when she's yelling at me over video or from live on Facebook and all those things. I really do love her because she does help a lot of people. Let me introduce some of our special guests today. I'm going to start with Dr. Dan. Can you join us, Dr. Dan, and give us a little bit about yourself?
A little bit about myself. Well, I think you could sum me up in 3 ways. Our vision is to engage with nations, is to engage with people on 3 levels, all coming out of relationship building. We invest in long-term relationships. That's central to who we are. And from that, we engage in 3 arenas. We like to engage in all aspects of body, soul, and spirit. We engage with the church and building up the spiritual makeup of the body of believers. And from there, we want to engage in culture. We want to engage in the community. How can we help people in real ways? How can we build business? How can we affect healthcare and education and any aspect that relationship allows us to engage in within those communities? And ultimately being able to engage with government where laws are made, where legislation is made, and because that has a big role in what can and can't happen within a culture. So those are the 3 things that we look to engage in through relationship building. And we're doing that currently in, I would say, 4 countries in the world right now and growing. So just some exciting projects that are even emerging right now. And this is really an interesting conversation we're having because sometimes we want to do a new thing. We want to make changes and we try and we make an effort, and next thing you know, well, that was 6 years ago. And but we don't always understand the power of making that commitment, and because it's always there. Once we make that commitment and we share it with people and we speak it, it's something that gets established in our soul, and we don't realize the power of that. I just have a project that began 7 years ago, and it looked impossible from the beginning, and it looked impossible all along the way. And just this week, got a phone call, and it looks like the project's about to land. So never give up. Continue to engage in the relationships. Continue to build the right kind of dialogue. And God is good. There comes a point in time where He says, "It's time. We're ready to roll."
Yes.
That's amazing. In case you didn't know, there's some preacher in Dr. Dan, and it's going to come out again and again as we're going through this process. So just prepare yourself. Also, I want to mention, he said 4 countries and building, which means that if someone is watching this, you have the opportunity to become a part of this team and contribute to what we are all focused on, and that's good health and well-being. So let me bring in Phil, so he can give us a really quick introduction of himself as well.
Thanks, Tara. Well, I first got to meet Sonia in Nairobi at Lions Day with the United Nations, which was a really awesome occasion. Many great speakers, and a keynote speaker there that day was from Special Olympics, David Evangelista. So I come from a background I was in finance for all of my business life and risk in running securities departments. But for 40 years, I've been a volunteer in Lions Clubs International, which is the largest volunteer service organization in the world. A lot of people have heard of Lions in their own country, but don't realize that it's actually spanning nearly 220 countries. With approaching a family of 1.6 million members with the Leos and the Lions together. I'm very involved in that. I do many things around the world. I've been working, as Sonia knows, I've been working in Kenya and recently in Uganda, where I'm trying to be involved with an orphanage. Also with Special Olympics, I was on the board of Special Olympics Great Britain for 9 years, so I have a passion for understanding those with intellectual disability and including them. And other than that, I was on the board for 9 years for Medical Alert International, which is like an ID bracelet. We can talk about that later, but it's a life protector. Most people spend more money insuring their cat than they do themselves. Medical Alert is a lifesaver. That's a brief introduction about me.
Boy, you touched on some serious points right there, and I can't get into them. I cannot, because I won't get to our last guest. She's not a guest. She's part of the team. Miss Felicia Glass, can you share a little bit about yourself as well?
Well, hello, everybody. It's always an honor to be here. I don't know. I think the one thing I want to say about myself is that I am a grief counselor. I'm also a clinical social worker. My passion is in grief and helping hearts heal. I once went on a retreat in California for a week in the Redwoods. And what I learned about myself is that I'm capable of doing all things that I set my mind to. Never in a million years did I think that at 440 pounds, I'd be able to walk down the side of a mountain. But I did. And so today's topic, just about new start, new resolutions. And I don't like resolutions. I want to start anew. And starting anew, it allows me to tap into my strengths, right? And so I think that part of me is part of knowing me is to know that I always feel like I cannot be defeated. It's all about how much of my heart do I want to give this thing, this person, this situation, and whatever I'm connected to, I want to be able to give it my whole heart, my whole self. And when I present, I'm people now title me as a motivational speaker, and I think it's an honor to have the title. But when I share with people, I often am hit with, "Oh my gosh, you have this way of drawing people in and connecting." And today, what you'll hear me say is that in everything that we do, if we are standing in our authentic self, the rest will follow, right? So in my authenticity of being better, choosing better, I get to be honest with myself. And honesty allows for us to be vulnerable with ourselves, vulnerable with others, and to be in a space to grow, to learn, you ever been shocked when you look at yourself? When you evaluate yourself, you're shocked. That's that transparency. That's that vulnerability. So today, what I would say about me is I'm here to be transparent, to be vulnerable. And I want to encourage those who are listening and watching to constantly sit in the same position.
Love that. Absolutely love that. So let me just kick this off, since we're talking about being vulnerable and transparent and authentic. First question is for everybody, and I'm going to start. Why is it important to evaluate ourselves and our mindsets? And Felicia just answered it for all of us, but I know that everybody can add something to that. I'm going to start with saying this, that our bodies are like cars. I think it was Phil that said something along these lines. If I jump in my car and say I'm driving from Topeka to California, chances are something's going to go wrong because I haven't evaluated the capacity of my vehicle to make it from Topeka to California. And that is what we do with ourselves. Sometimes we don't do that evaluation and we say, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. And we haven't even determined if we're physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually capable of doing the thing that we set our mind to do. And that gets a lot of us in trouble. And that's all I'm going to say. I'm going to leave it up to everyone to answer this question really, really quick.
If I may go, I'll say this, being in your authentic self, a lot of times that we forget that we're telling ourselves we're going to do something, right? And if we don't accomplish that task, ultimately we have nobody else to blame but ourselves. And so when you do self-evaluation, you know your limitations. You can evaluate what you can do, what you're willing to do, the sacrifices you're willing to make. You are excited about, the process. You understand it, like it's comprehensible to you from all levels. And I think that ultimately that evaluation is going to allow you to engage the process and trust the process as well. When you don't do that evaluation, you find yourself struggling on that process, not being able to accept it, not being able to trust it, and walking in it in your authentic self because you're more concerned about failing now because you don't know what's in the process. You didn't evaluate. And so evaluation is essential to the completion, right? The solution to the problem that you're trying to solve.
Well, I'll go next. Coach Nisi, I love that. And that's really encouraging. And it's reminding me of a time in my life, if I can go back that far to college. I was a scholarship athlete in college. I was a gymnast. And through the 8 years of high school and college, there was certain things that I thought, I think I can do that. I think I can develop to that level. And what I found is once I would reach that level, it opened a whole nother world of, oh, but now I think I can do this. And once I reached that, and then it was a continual progression that, and I think it really is the way life works. I think we tend to set goals within the parameters of what we think we can do. And that's fine because we don't want to get halfway into the process and get discouraged and quit. We want to have attainable goals. But all along the way, while you're going towards an attainable goal, realize that when I get there, I have to be ready to make another decision, make another choice, and reach beyond that point. Because now that I've come to this place, more I'm capable of more. And so you begin to develop an ongoing mindset that this is what my life looks like. I don't want to lose 10 pounds and I get to a 10-pound loss and then 6 months later I've gained it all back. Mm-hmm. Right? No, I'm going to lose 10 pounds. I'm going to call Coach Nisi. I'm going to take this thing to another level, right? So we have to cultivate this mindset wherein I'm not just going to come up with a short-term goal, but in realizing that in setting a short-term goal, it's the first step towards the next goal. And when I get there, I'm going to see it like I couldn't see it back here.
So let me just ask a question or jump in for a quick few minutes. I know, so when we say self-evaluate and the skill set, a mindset change, I tend to, because I know myself better than anyone else. So I may be sitting here saying, okay, I'm going to start this diet on January 1st. This is December 31st right now. But if I have not taken the time initially to get my mind right, it's almost for me, I have to think about, what is it that I want to accomplish? What is it that I want to do? So I have to work it through my mind before I start. And so me knowing myself better than anyone else would be the perfect person to, start beforehand to line up what it is that I'm going to do. So if, for instance, if I say I'm going to lose 10 pounds, but I know that if you bring a Pepsi in front of me, I'm going to drink it. So right now I have to go through and clean out everything. So this is the mindset change that I need to do. So I need to go ahead and, clean out my mind, do whatever it is in order for me to get this started without having at the end of the week already failed. Mm-hmm. So that's why it's important to me is that I need to put everything in place before I get started because I know me. Mm-hmm.
But can I say something to that, Dr. Sonia? Mm-hmm. Quick. So a lot of times when you know yourself, right, you're absolutely right that you know yourself better than anyone else. And I tell my client that, listen, I don't know you any better than you know yourself, but your habits, you don't recognize your habits, that they're bad, right? Mm-hmm. There's of accountability that one has to have in order for them. Once you start, you say you're not going to do that Pepsi, you're not going to put it out, you're going to put things in place to make sure that Pepsi is not there. But who's keeping you accountable for it? Because you're not. Because if it's sitting right in front of you, you're going to drink it. If you got one under the counter, you know that it's there, you're going to drink it. It's also that accountability piece too.
Right.
That we forget that we need sometimes to check in with someone, to be able to say, hey, listen, whether it's a coach, whether it's a friend, whether it's your husband, somebody that's going to be on that journey with you, to say, listen, I know me, I know I got that, that whole case of Pepsi underneath my counter, even though they're unopened and they're hot. All I have to do is put it in the refrigerator and it's cold, and I'm going to take it all the way down, right? Because I know me. And so the thing is that we got to make sure that we're including that accountability piece when you're setting your journey, because you do know you, and you know what your habits have been saying for the last 15 plus years. That same habit of drinking that Pepsi for 15 years, you know you. And so you got to get some accountability, so that because you know you, someone's going to hold you to that. It's going to hold that fork to the fire and say, hey, every time you drink that Pepsi, I'm going to prick you with that hot fork. And, and you're not going to like that. So that accountability piece is super important.
True.
Yeah.
So I do have the trainer in the gym, but it's like I can sit here, and if I have a Pepsi here, it's like, so that's why I say I have to go through and clean out everything that is currently here. If I'm going to eat healthy, let me get rid of the chips, let me get rid of the cookies, let me get rid of everything. And then I know I won't be tempted. And then I know when I call him or he calls me or whatever, it's like, well, Sonia, what did you do today? And I can go through, what did you eat today? I did this, I did this, I did this. And it's like, okay, I've already gotten rid of that. So I don't have anything in front of me to tempt me.
Don't worry, I'll come knock at your door.
Okay.
She is known to just show up. She is known to just show up in your state.
Really?
And knock on
That's
your,
what I need.
Oh gosh.
I am.
That's what I need.
So let me kick off these questions with Phil. In terms of resolutions, how do you think people can create, and I don't say resolutions either, how do you think people can create goals that are realistic to promote mental well-being and resilience?
Cool, right. I think that goals need to be understanding. And by understanding, I mean something that's achievable. And I've spent a lot of years trying to understand many different understandings, which is difficult in a sentence. But what I mean by that, so I'll spend my time when I'm traveling to do service work, trying to connect the world in service. And I find that I'll get people in the USA working with Canada, working with UK, working with Italy, because we've got a like-minded goal, which is trying to make the world a better place. Now that could be trying to duck the reason for having a Pepsi, but it could be that we found something really, really special. And I did find something very, very special when I got involved with Special Olympics. Special Olympics is one of the three Olympics. We all know Olympics, the World Olympics, and we all know Paralympics. Special Olympics was the second movement that was given the blessing to use the title Olympics. The Special Olympics really are special. So trying to bring in the direction that we're going in conversation, for me, we need understanding in the world. And we certainly have not got understanding at this time, generally. I'm very concerned with how the world is. Looking at the Special Olympics, there is a pledge, and the pledge says a lot. The pledge says, and it's very open-minded, which may help us all understand my direction. I pledge, this is Special Olympics pledge. This is not Phil Nathan's pledge, but it's an easy one to take on board. I pledge to look for the lonely, to look for the isolated, the left out, the challenged, and the bullied. I pledge to overcome the fear, of difference and replace it with the power of inclusion. Now, if we all took some of that on board, we would be able to guide our whole life. We could do what we wanted with a Pepsi. And I think there's some of the gaps that we can learn from many of the organizations that there are in the world that allow us all to be together to serve the world in service. You don't have to be a goody two-shoes. All you need to do is give a bit back in your life. And I think health and well-being, supporting each other, understanding each other. I just came back from Sarajevo in Bosnia-Herzegovina on a week of service where I was vision screening children in an intellectually disabled school. Gave me the opportunity to go to a very smart event where I was invited to a dinner. And I met an organization that is networking. It's a new organization. They are people, and I'm using the broad term people, that have survived cancer. They were on the stage, they were together, there was 20 of them that had formed this, and I can tell you they had not all cleared cancer, you could tell. But they were strong, they were a network, they were supporting each other, and I suggested that we make that network global. Could you imagine if the people, 1 in 2 people suffer with cancer in their lifetime? If we could actually provide a network as an organization, whichever organization, to be a strength for somebody, that's how we would turn the world. That's how we could direct our own lives and find the strength that we need. Because it takes more than one of you to do what you're trying to do. But if you can connect the world in service, then you're halfway there. I'll stop because I'm preaching too much. Sorry.
Felicia, can you jump on that? Because I think that Phil tied to your opening statement about recognizing who you are and what you can do. And it's all bringing it back together. I love how you all do this.
So, I was over here like in prayer mode, like, yes, go Phil, go. Because the reality is that, it's true. It goes back to what Dr. Nisi is saying about, accountability partners, right? Like when we join forces with like-minded people who are working towards similar goals, we go further. One of my messages is so funny. I just did a presentation that aired last 2 nights ago on this very topic. And in that session, I talked about we cannot be afraid to lean in. We cannot be afraid to tell someone, sis, put your hand on my back because I need you to keep pushing me forward, right? I love when there are even the smallest things, like I'm getting ready to walk up the stairs. My wife might be behind me and all she has to do is put her hand in the middle of my back and it gives me the strength to keep going. Or when I'm getting ready to go down the stairs and my wife goes down in front of the stairs before me and hands me her hand or her arm, she gives me enough strength to be able to lean on her just enough to make my next step. Listen, the theory that like Dr. Phil talking about branching into all of these different nations, we have the ability to do that in our individual lives. We were not designed to live this life alone. We were designed to be connected in relationship so that we could have everything that we need, everything that we desire. So as you are moving forward in your individual goals, your community goals, your life goals, your family goals. So we often start this talking about, oh, it's just about our health. All of those other components are more than just our physical health. Tara hit on it when she talked about, we talk about these, the physical, we talk about the mental, the spiritual, the psychological, the intellectual, our physical environment. Even if your goal is just to do the laundry once a week and put it away, that is improvement. We have to say, my kids will say to me, Mom, are you supposed to have this cheese? When we talked about accountability, their voices instantly came to mind because I can't do this journey alone. If I'm supposed to be sugar-free, dairy-free, I can't be eating cheese on my eggs, right? My kids will be like, Mom, are you supposed to have that? Mom, are you supposed to have this burger? So yes, we need to be connected and leaning in on one another, supporting one another, doing things that allow us to move. Because if I can trust you to let me lean on you in return, you will trust me to lean on me. So Tara, I could go all day on connection and community, but I just want to say, Dr. Phil, you hit that thing on the head. And yes, lean in, let someone else support you, and in turn support someone else.
Dan, you look like you want to jump in there.
Oh, I'm just squirming in my chair after everyone speaks. Yeah, there's something so powerful about what's being shared here today. And, I think, Felicia, when you talk about authenticity, I think it's the missing ingredient in our human experience. I think we're so driven by stereotypes, and we're so driven by the definition that's handed to us in social circles and in cultural circles. We're being fed how to think. And until we engage in authentic relationships, we don't know how to think, because we have to know each other at, I like to say, at a cellular level. We have to know each other at the heart. And it's only then will we begin to see what's possible. Will we see how we can connect? And if we connect, I bring this, you bring that, and now a vision begins to emerge out of that authenticity. But we have to be willing to engage in those relationships and allow them to come to that point where something significant begins to emerge. So now we can embrace it together, and now something bigger than me begins to, and I see I really can have a vision. I really can set a goal in a way that I didn't think I could before. And it has value because, as Phil is saying, I know how it's going to impact humanity. I know how it's going to help somebody. And that just breeds the conviction into those things that we are uniting around. And that gives it strength and gives it purpose. And I could go on and on with that, because things begin to emerge in our heart and our mind that we wouldn't have conceived of in our own human individual resolution for a new year.
You all are on it. You're on it. Dr. Phil, you're muted.
Call them an athlete for Special Olympics. Another oath that they have is let me win. But if I can't win, let me be brave in the attempt. Now imagine, just boil that down to what that really means. If we all thought like that, it's so simplistic, but it's fact. You don't need this and you don't need that. You just need to be unified. You need to be all the same. Everybody giving space to everybody.
I love that. I love that. So how can we strengthen emotional well-being by building support networks in situations, communities, relationships where there might be strain? So where someone doesn't necessarily have the kind of support network that you are all talking about.
If I could, I'd like to answer that question. We're in a generation where I believe that everybody's trying to do things alone. I think the pandemic forced us to be able to try to operate alone in our own space. And I think that in essence, that forces us to not want to reach out to people. When we start talking about emotional well-being, mindset, positioning ourselves in the community, we have to find that community. Again, when it comes down to just fitness, finding a walking group, right? Women who are going out walking and saying, hey, can I go out walking with you? You don't have to do anything crazy if you're not used to it, right? When it comes down to, trying to build a business idea, actually getting into groups and saying, hey, who lives in so-and-so area? Can we meet up for a breakfast brunch? Being able to kind of put yourself back out there and willing to take that risk of meeting someone new. So many of us rely on the people that's in our environment, and the people in our environment don't support us. But right then and there don't want to interact or do anything more. And so we have to sometimes go out of our comfort zone to find the community that we need in order for us to branch out. And if I can add this along with that, we're also in the era of comparison. We're always trying to compare ourselves to other people, what people have, what they don't have. And the thing is, we sometimes judge ourselves and say we're not enough because this person has or this person has done. And when we often do that, we shut ourselves down. So if we learn to reach out and say, hey, I need help because I'm not there, being able to insert ourselves into communities that will accept us, we will get out of that era of comparison. We'll get out of that era of putting ourselves down and limiting that. So when we talk about emotional well-being, we have to work on that comparison piece within ourselves. Like, how are we judging ourselves? How do we feel about that? And actually tuning in with that, because that's going to open the gate on how we operate in other spaces and communities. The fear of rejection. Yes, Miss Maxine, exactly. Those fears that are unknown to us prevent us from being our authentic self and living in our best life. So we have to kind of get out of a lot of little spaces that we're in before we're actually able to deal with our emotional health, if that makes sense. It's like a full circle. We, again, going back to the evaluation of where we are with ourselves, our goals, and how we align with them.
Well, I like that, Nisia. And when you were talking, I was thinking about this. I'm of age, and I'm not going to say what that age is, but I wanted to get into bike riding, and it was like, I'm not going to be able to do this. I'm not going to be able to keep up. I'm not going to be able to do any of these things. But I took it upon myself one day to just go out and do some research to see, where they did bike riding. And I went over there, and I'm, how you get there and you look around and you said, I'm like, I need to go home because they look like they're in top shape. They look like this, they look like that. I'm not going to make it up that hill. I've put out everything that I have put out here just to turn around and go home. But then I saw this elderly lady come, and she was riding a bike. And I mean, she went up the hill, she went around the block, she did everything. And it's like, I'm not going to let her beat me. And then, I got to the end of the bridge and I stopped because I was tired. So she came up and she was talking to me. And I mean, she gave me the encouragement that I needed, and it's like they would not allow me to come in last. They would not allow me to stay back there by myself. They actually pushed me through to the end. And, I continued to do that for, every week I would meet up with them. I would go with them. And I'm like, and it was always like, if they can do it, I can do it. And if I have them on my back telling me you can do this, if we can do it, you can do it, you're going to finish. So I absolutely love that. But then it got cold and, you sort of lose your way.
Of course, right? But that's where you alternate into something different. And that's another thing, I always tell people, make sure you have a secondary backup plan. But I will tell you this, age is one of those things about rejection, people starting something new, doing things new. Age is only a number. It's not a definition. It doesn't define who you are. It doesn't define what you do. It doesn't define where you go. It has no definition to you, right? I don't care if you want to start riding a bike at 71. Who says you cannot? You are the only one putting those limitations on yourself. You're the only one keeping yourself bound. And so that's emotional health that we got to work on, right? Good health and well-being. It doesn't have an age. It doesn't have an age. It doesn't have a when. It doesn't have a where. It doesn't have a why. It's because you want to, right? And so you got to do what works for you. And Miss Felicia Glass just said that. Do what works for you. And you really have to be authentic in that. And it's going to draw right back into evaluating yourself and knowing yourself in order for you to take that first step into your goal.
Yeah.
That's good. Thank you.
So I want you to know that I so resonate with the idea of wanting to do something and being like, ooh, I don't know if I can do that, and then doing it anyway, right? So Tara will tell you that I went through this huge phase, like for several years of biking. And I probably at the time was over 300 pounds. I found a bike that would fit me. I bought an adult trike. I invested in a trike. It was like $1,200, $1,500. I invested in that trike. I started just by riding down my street, back and forth down my street, just a little thing. So it's just those small journeys, right? Until then, I got my kids' new bikes, and my kids and I ventured off to the bike trails that were near our home. So it was like a half a mile there and back. We started riding, then we ride and get into the trails. Now we're going across the trails like blocks, miles now. So then I moved out and I ventured into biking, and I was toting my bike downtown to ride downtown. Then my friend, who's a health and wellness guru, did a group, and I became the leader of that group of leading Black women into our community on bikes, where they would rent bikes at stations and we would go out for rides. So thinking about how I started as this individual who did not ride a bike, and I was like, "Ooh, that sounds like fun." Just literally woke up one day, got on this bike, up and down the street into my neighborhood, taking my kids. And now I have a community of people who bike, right? And then, yeah, you phase out of it. But how amazing is that feeling to look at it and be like, I did that. I did that, right? Yeah, put that behind you. All the things that you think you can't do, all it takes is one small step and a commitment to do it every time. I think I want to go ride today. I live in a cul-de-sac in a neighborhood that is completely unrideable. It literally on the map says unbikeable. I will ride that tricycle in this little cul-de-sac at the end around here 5-10 times, but I got my ride in. So things matter.
Dr. Dan, I saw you chomping at the bit. What do you have?
Well, I think I'd like to address this concept of experiencing rejection, because anytime that you push yourself for something great, you push yourself to achieve or to better yourself, you can almost count that someone's going to reject you. Someone's going to come alongside you and say, "You can't do that. What do you think you're doing?" And really, I think what's happening in that moment is your conviction to move forward and better yourself has convicted someone who's not walking in that mindset. And so it comes across as rejection to you, but it's actually insecurity in them because you have challenged them. And so if we can see it in that context, we won't be hurt by it, but we will understand if I will press forward at some point in time, perhaps my courage will become their courage. Perhaps my reaching a goal will be something that will stimulate them to say, well, maybe I can too. But we have to be willing to walk through that and endure through some of those difficult places. If our vision really is not only about ourselves, but it really is about helping other people as well, then we're going to experience those uncomfortable encounters with people, because what we're doing is challenging their mindset. It's challenging their lack of conviction to do something better for themselves. And there's been times in my life where I've experienced uncomfortable encounters with people, only for the seasons to come back around and they became dear friends in my life. This is one of the aspects when we talk about the God part of all of this, is that he gives us courage. He gives us courage to walk through seasons that are difficult, not only for the sake of getting through the season, but there's something happening in that moment. There's not just something happening for me, but I'm a vessel by which God is now stirring something in somebody else and moving them from complacency, moving them out of fear, moving them out of past failure and the mindset that it set it in their life. And so if we could take that in those moments of rejection and go, God, I just pray that you will use this to help them and continue to press on. Oh, wow, for them to do that, I really must have a significant goal here. What an encouragement.
And Dr. Dan, recognition is a real key to what you've just said. Being able to recognize achievements, like riding the bike, for example, but take it to a level where the people are not as switched on as we are on the screen. Where I'd go to an athletic stadium and there's a games on of all of the intellectual disability, and they're all the same because they're all doing their best. And one of the biggest acclaims or acclamations I ever witnessed was a young man sitting in a wheelchair that his sport was using a straw to try and blow a balloon off of the shelf in front of him because he had no other mobility. And he tried, and he tried, and he tried. And the area, there were probably 4,000 people in the gym watching in seats. It was totally silent. And eventually he managed to get enough wind down that straw and the balloon came off. And the boy got a gold medal for doing that. But there was nobody not crying. Everybody was standing. So I'm boiling it down to recognizing people's achievements.
Mm-hmm.
What a better place we'd be if we could do that. Well done with your bike.
Yes.
Can I also add, we talk about achievement and recognizing the achievement in others, but don't be afraid to celebrate yourself.
Sure.
I am a huge celebrator. If you can find one thing to celebrate it. Celebrate that you put your feet on the floor and you got up today. Celebrate that you got dressed. Celebrate that you made connection, that you chose to pick up water instead of a soda, or that you didn't drink as much soda as you did yesterday. Find a reason to celebrate yourself. Write your notes. That's right. She got her water cup, right? Choose to celebrate yourself, because here's what I will tell you. I'm the queen of celebration. I throw myself parties just to celebrate something that I have done, because the idea is oftentimes we fail to celebrate each other. And when we fail to celebrate each other, we feel bad. Like no one likes me because that whole image thing, right? No one wants to support me. No one wants to do this. Absolutely know that if you celebrate you, other people are likely to celebrate you as well. So don't be afraid to give yourself an applause. I just did a Toot Toot Wednesday, right? It was a Facebook post. I called it Toot Toot. That was the title, Toot Toot. And I commented about this certificate. I just finished the certification program for Yoga Nidra as an instructor. And it was like, no one may not think it's a big deal, but I think it's a big deal. And that deserves celebration.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a key thing too, because that's a part of the self-care piece, to keep you going in your process. One of the things that I do with my clients is I encourage them to do self-care, whether it's just getting in an ice bath, going for a massage, going for chiropractic work to make them feel good. Don't shake your head, Tara, because that ice bath is coming to you next. Don't even do it, because she shook her head. I'm not taking an ice bath. See, there's right there. See, we're not doing that. But but seriously, that self-care piece, you've got to do that, and I encourage that. We have to encourage self-care. We think that self-care is spending money on ourselves. In essence, yeah, getting our hair, nails done, getting a haircut, we feel fresh to death. But when we don't feel good, we don't look good, we don't do good, we don't operate at our highest level. And I mean, for every goal possible, if your relationship is not bad, you might need a date. You might need to go out with your wife. You might need to go out with your husband. You might need to sit down with your children and just have some one-on-one time. You might need to journal. You might need just a day out for yourself. But self-care looks so different for all of us in so many ways. But it's one of the things that people do not do when they're on a journey or for a goal. Weight loss, financial, a job, career, a degree. Self-care is the last thing. They're doing everything for everybody else. They're focusing all strictly on this goal. But when they get depleted, they don't know how to pick themselves back up. So you got to make sure that at least one time a week, 2 days a week, if you can, get some self-care, whether it's just sleeping in an extra 2 hours. That's some real good self-care, right? And again, getting up for a good stretch, that's some good self-care. And so I'm an advocate for that. So Felicia, you really hit that on the head when you start talking about loving on yourself, but also making sure that your self-care is on point, because at the end of the day, when you're depleted, nobody else, you're no benefit to nobody else, including yourself. Your goals mean nothing. Your goals are not going to say, hey, get up, go take care of yourself. You have to be the one to initiate that and do those things. And so, yeah, self-care is huge. So that's good.
So one last question, and whoever wants to take it, I'll let you kick it off. What specific cultural practices or traditions can people look to contribute to their emotional resilience, and how can people share these? And you've all touched on this at some point, so I'm hoping that you all picked up on something and want to add it to yours.
Family. Culturally, family is huge for people. They sit around, they eat, they sit around, they watch movies, they do a lot of good things. And I think culturally, we start with family, looking at how your family comes together, some of the things your family does to keep the positivity and the emotional well-being together. Because when your family is on one accord, it makes it so much easier to navigate life with when your family is all in one. And so, I would first say, look at your family, because that's pretty much probably the one cultural thing that we have in common that we do. We sit around at the table, we eat, we talk, we connect in our seasons. And so family, I would start that out first.
I would agree with that. Family is so central and so foundational to who we are, and the authenticity, it's so inherent within family. And I think one thing that I would just add is just creating and cultivating a mindset and a life practice of creating life, of speaking life, of encouraging people. We reap what we sow. The golden rule, do to others as you would have them do unto you. There really is a dynamic that is inherent within that principle. It creates something in our life. So if we're needing to be encouraged, find someone to encourage. If we're needing someone to say, hey, I believe in your goal, then find someone to say, hey, you can do it. I believe with you. If we will cultivate a lifestyle and a mindset of who am I going to encourage today? When someone comes across my path, what's the first thought I have in engaging with them? What can I say that will be encouraging? What can I say that will be life-giving? And just creating a natural culture, personal culture, that's what happens in my day, then we'll be surprised at how much, like the scripture says, cast your bread in the water and it'll come back on every wave.
I'd use a few words: understanding, acceptance, leadership, and the final word would be learning. And we learn something every day. I recently learned, and so this is my lesson. I was in Uganda and I was supporting some young people. There was what we could call an upmarket dinner, and they hadn't been included. So I spoke to the leader and I said, if you want to teach these youngsters what you're really trying to do, they need to see what you do. They need to be included. So we got them included, and they were sitting at the back of this big room, and everybody was dressed up in their fine wear. And these young people were at the back, and they were absorbing everything that was happening, and it was fun. So Brian Sheehan was there, Sonia, and I came off the stage, and I went to the back, and I saw these youngsters. They were sitting there with an empty table, and I gave them a few dollars to go and get some soft drinks that were available. And I went back, and they came to me afterwards, and they said, "You've taught us so much," and I didn't get that. 2 days later, they emailed me. I was in a different place, and they said, "Thank you for the gift for the soft drinks. We had a meeting, and we decided to pool the money you gave us, and we've paid for the education of a disabled girl that couldn't go to school." That's my final word, because we're learning something every day, and those kids taught me something.
Listen, that's amazing. Wow, that's all I have to say for that. An experience. So I think about everything that we've given in terms of words and culture. And so, of course, it's been hinted at, but I will use the word our spirituality, right? Our spirituality. And I say spirituality because it's important to have that connection. But I don't want to use the word religious, because we can be religious about anything. But the spiritual connection that we have within our cultures, whatever culture you're from, there's a spiritual space, right? And finding ways to worship, and then to receive. When we allow ourselves to be expanded in a place of worship, we give gratitude and we have thanksgiving in that space. And both of those places allow us to be available, to be teachable, right? And we stand in that space of gratitude, we recognize that we have been given gifts that we are undeserving of. And because we recognize and have accepted those gifts, now we also have to remember to come back to this space where we then sit with acceptance of the gifts that we've been given and find a way to restore and give back unto community. And as we do that work of giving that back in community, we know that our praise and our worship and our recognition allows other people to grow. It is a gift that we give back, right? And so in all of that cultural perspective is that reminder that the underlying layer is that connection, that something I give, something that I exalt, in some way that I give praise, it will give power or empowerment to someone else. And that allows me to sit back and give thankfulness for the grace that has been extended unto me. So then I am prepared to extend grace later to someone else.
So let me just interject here because all of that was so good. It really was. And the one thing that I find that's consistent across what each one of you said is communication in speaking and talking to people. And when you tend to open up to people and be transparent and share, that also allows other people to engage in what you're saying. And I find in doing that is when you really can develop relationships, is that, okay, I know what's going on in your life. And, I feel that she or I sense that, spiritually, they need some help. They need some counseling. They just need someone to listen to them. And so when I'm out and about and, I meet new people, I tend to listen to, just listen, because somewhere in there, they're going to say something. They're going to say something that allows you to pick up on it, to know that they need some words of encouragement. And then, you start out with, well, I spiritually, I'm sensing that, but let me share with you what happened to me. And when you approach people in that manner and you keep an open dialogue and you just be open and transparent with people, I find that is that's something that is a big motivator. And I say that because, again, when I'm in Nairobi and, we attend these little meetings or whatever, and you're up and you're sharing stories with the people and they're grasping onto everything that you have to say. And what was one of my biggest moments is when they came to me and they said, I went through that. My husband used to beat on me, and what you said gave me encouragement because you came out of it, And then one of the things, I spoke at a church in Nairobi and it was a girls' school. It was for girls. And when I was done, they ran up, they stood in line, they wanted hugs, they wanted this, they wanted that. And what I was told afterwards was that was the first time that they had been hugged. That was the first time love had been shown to them. And I mean, it's just like I said, when you open up, when you listen, when you make yourself vulnerable, as Felicia said, I mean, all these things happen. And I don't know if it's God's way of saying, you're the person that they need at this point in time. So that's the way I approach it. But I make communication one of the biggest, the top priority for me when I'm out and about and I'm meeting new people. Go ahead. That was my comment.
That was powerful. That was powerful. We have a couple minutes left. Dr. Dan, did you want to jump in there?
No, I just want to encourage everybody that would watch this, as you were watching this, maybe there's some things that came to your mind. And I just want to really encourage you, take that next step, immediately. Don't wait. Immediately after watching this broadcast, make a decision. What's one thing that I can do to change the direction I'm walking in? What's one thing I can add to my lifestyle? What's one thing that I can implement? And really move immediately into it. Let it begin to bear fruit in your life. Because then it'll be yours. Then it'll begin to take on a life. And I just encourage everybody to really move immediately into something that, whatever that is for you, that immersed in your heart and your mind in watching this broadcast.
Perfect. Well, Coach, we're going to let you wrap things up for us. So do you have some final words?
Yeah, absolutely. So first and foremost, I want to say congratulations to you in advance. All right. I want to congratulate you for starting. I want you to take Dr. Dan's advice and say, I'm going to do it. Or if you've already started, I want to say congratulations. If you have not yet started, I need you to give yourself grace because it's not going to be perfect. It's not going to be easy. You're going to have some good days. You're going to have some bad days. You might have some confusing days, some conflicting days. Be okay with that. Be okay with understanding that this is a journey. It's not a marathon, right? It's a day by day process. Whatever you could do today, do it. And then tomorrow, I want you to pick up where you left off and try and make it better than what it was yesterday. Don't give up on yourself. You've got to believe in yourself in any goal because you set the goal. So that goal belongs to you. That goal belongs to you. It's near and dear to your heart. So it's something that you decided that was going to change your life, or something that you decided that you believed in and wanted to change. I don't care how small or minute or how egregious it may seem to you. I need you to believe in it. I need you to keep going, and I need you to have a resolution in this season. This season is yours because you made it so. And so congratulations in advance. And I look forward to December of 2024 and you coming back here and sharing with us that you completed your task. And even though it may have been hard, you made it. And so congratulations in advance. And I want you to have an amazing 2024. And thank you all for joining us today.
Yeah.
Thank you. Felicia, did you have anything to say before we end it? You're on.
I'm just going to say kudos. I just want you to know that you're simply amazing. It's an amazing opportunity to come together as a panel and have this discussion. It's an amazing opportunity to be able to leave a gift for someone else. Mm-hmm. And so today, as you think about everything that's been shared and you've heard all the great things, the wrap up from Coach Nisi, my walk away, I want you to think about this. Be authentic in everything that you do. Make sure that someone holds you accountable and you're okay with being checked in on. I want you to remember that it's important to have understanding about who you are before you can understand where you're going. And don't be afraid of that. Connect with somebody and let someone work with you, partner with you, cheer you on, push you forward, be there for you. Remember that self-care is essential in this process. Everything that you do, all that you give, it's amazing that we think that we don't have to give any of it back to ourselves, but I want you to know that you're worth it. You deserve it. You've already given so much of yourself that it's okay to pour back into you. And lastly, I want you to know that it's time to move from where you're currently standing and start working towards wherever it is you desire to go, whoever you desire to be. But whatever it is, as you wrap it all up and bring that package together, remember that the breath that you breathe is a gift. And what you do with each and every breath determines your next moment in this life. Do not allow the pressures and expectations of others to suffocate you and snuff you out. Breath has been given to you. Take it.
Oh, that was good. So, Tara?
I can't top these two. I cannot top these two. That was powerful. That was absolutely powerful.
Thank you so much.
Everybody that was here. Yeah, it was amazing.
Thank you so much to each and every one of you. And I look forward to seeing you again real soon. Enjoy the rest of your week.